There's so many good fucking callbacks. Like this show has so many great callbacks. Like him looping the entire planet at light speed, where after he got like supercharged from the sun, and then instead of, because the entire time he's flying around the globe, I'm like, okay, it's definitely going to be a Superman 1 type scenario where he's going to be rolling back time to separate both of the different universes. Nah, son, that's that's too simple. My thinking was too simple because he had no intentions of just casually separating both of the universes. He delivered like the equivalent, Superman's equivalent of the Flash's infinite mass punch to like the planet Earth, which I really feel as though that punch should have just ended all of reality. Like both of the universes or both the Earths are merging. When Superman just decked the shit out of the Earth should have just ceased to be. It should have just, its existence should have just ended, and Bizarro Universe should have just instantly taken over. And then that's how season 3 sets up him trying to like undo the mistake of releasing that much energy on the planet Earth. But that scene is dope as fuck. I absolutely love it. There are a lot of really great scenes, and there are also a lot of emotional scenes. I think it's a testament to the writers that, let's take Sarah Cushing and Jordan like as an example, right? As fans, us watching the show from the beginning of season 2 up until now, we had taken issue with the way in which the character had essentially went about their relationship with Jordan. It is a good thing that the writers basically wrote the season in a type of way where you can see that they also agreed with the fans that this is going to rub some people the wrong way, but this is basically how messy and messed up real life relationships are. And then we're going to take some time at the end of the season to essentially address the relationship between the two of them, because I wasn't expecting an apology. So when the apology came out and like it happened, I was like, okay, that's like another +1. I didn't expect it. It wasn't something that I was going to put on the scorecard for the end of season 2 for this final episode. But I, for one, am super happy that it happened, because it more or less addressed something that was annoying me, and it looked like a bunch of the fan base as well in regards to Jordan and Sarah's relationship. I'm happy as shit that happened. Talking about the episode in general, I always love it when Tal-Rho shows up. I really feel as though there's a story arc to visit in regards to Kal-El and Tal-Rho, where you could look at them and say that they are the super sons of this show. More or less due to how both of them were raised, the fact that for Tal, basically, he was given instructions and fear was beaten into him, whereas with Kal, he was given more or less freedom and love was given to him, and the way in which both their characters kind of interacted, ended up butting heads, and then became best friends, or genuine brothers. Fantastic writing on Tal-Rho's part. I absolutely love that when he shows up, he shows up to Earth too, and he's all like, boom shakalaka, like, what up, denizens of the other universe? Your boy Tal-Rho is back. And they're like, oh my god, didn't we just kill ours? Isn't our Tal-Rho dead? What are you even doing here? I feel as though that's setting up season 3 for Tal to come back to Smallville and end up trying to get into a relationship with Lana. I do not know how that's going to go, due to the fact that Lana has essentially had her interaction with what was his human name? His human name was, I remember they used the same name as like the villain from season 1 of Supergirl. No, not Maxwell Lord. I don't remember what the original name that he had as a human was. It'll come back to me later. But she already had dealings with him, and she already thinks that he's a scumbag. So it'll be interesting to see him return back to Earth, or at least get the name and discover that it's Lana. And he's like, oh my god, I already ruined that chance at that relationship. I'm wondering whether or not he's probably going to end up spending some time on Earth 2. That wasn't really Earth 2, Bizarro World. There are a lot of loose threads, I would say, in regards to Bizarro World. Because we see in Bizarro World, Allie's cult is really big. It's basically taken over the entire planet. They control the DEO, or the DDO. But not only that, they also have Jonathan L., Bizarro Superboy, working for them, along with Lana, who was given Kryptonian powers. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not we end up having to deal with them again. But I feel as though with the separation of the universes, they've more or less put a stamp on saying that we're not going back to Bizarro World. That's essentially the end of that story, and we're going to be moving forward with the future story that we're going to tell in regards to Intergang. And if you're not familiar with Intergang is basically a high-tech, it's in the name, gang of criminals that work in Metropolis. When I say high-tech, I literally mean high-tech. We're talking about a highly organized gang that's almost as efficient as Argus in getting alien tech, but also getting high-end technology from like Luthor Corp and other organizations in the DC universe, and then using that for crimes. Superman has had multiple clashes with Intergang in the comics. He's also had multiple clashes with Intergang on Superman the Animated Series, if you ever watched that series. But it's interesting to see that Diggle returns to basically recruit the other universe's John Henry to investigate the death of this universe's John Henry. And I feel as though that's going to lead to another issue, because if I remember correctly, this universe's John Henry had a sister. So I don't know whether or not we're going to be getting more a more in-depth dive, I guess you could say, into the relationship with John Henry and the rest of his family, along with Natalie. Also, in regards to Natalie, I fucking love the fact that she's basically just a part of the Kents now. Like, even though she's from another universe, because of her situation, they've essentially just adopted her. She's literally Lois's daughter, like, bar none. I love her interactions with Jonathan Jordan, due to the fact that, like, they're like, nah, we're like the super siblings, or like the multiversal super siblings, and they're hugging it out and they're reassuring each other and they have each other's back. That's great writing, because you could have really just had Natalie show up and just shove her off to the side, only have her pop up when John Henry's doing something, and then just shove her back into the corner again. It's great that they integrated her character into the story. Also, this was a win-win for everybody. So it wasn't like it was only Superman who saved the day, because the irons were off in the dimensional void, trying to disconnect and separate both of the universes, and they succeeded, and they were willing to die together in that void, knowing that they saved the day. That's great. Like, I love that. I love that they have, or the humans in the story have their time to shine. I'm really hoping that eventually they get the capes. Like, I really love the steel armor with the red cape and the House of L logo on the back, because to be quite honest, it makes the most sense for Natalie to low-key be one of them, the one that has the cape with the Superman logo on the back, due to the fact that she's essentially been adopted by the Kents. But like, I'm really waiting for that addition to occur. Like, yes, give me that. Give me the steel armor with the Superman logo and the Superman S on the hammer, because that's dope as shit. The supercharge ability was great, but it started off with a super funny scene. So there's a hilarious ass scene where Cal goes to Tal after he got saved by Jordan, and he's like, you got to take me to the sun and you have to throw me into the sun. Now, this seems logical if you're Superman, but if you remember correct, like if you were at 100% as Superman, but if you remember, like 5 minutes before, he was just straight human. No super hearing, no super strength, like no durability, none of that. And his plan was for Tal to fly him through space at super speed, or light speed, I guess, and then just lob him into the sun. But the thing that really cracked me up is that, like, they're both just like floating right there in front of the sun in space, having a normal ass conversation. And this is why I keep telling people that Young Justice has done a really good job at advancing certain mythos in the DC universe. For instance, this very last season of Young Justice, you had the introduction that high scale Kryptonians or high end Kryptonians can speak to each other through their mind, through a mental link. That makes sense because Kryptonians can fly through space because they don't have to breathe as often. They do not require pressure suits. When they're in space, there isn't any air molecules for vibrations to happen so that you can hear sound, so that all the conversations they have would be mental. It'd have made more sense for that situation where it was a mental discussion, but instead, like, their mouths are just moving and they're just standing in front of the sun, and I'm like, that's not how that's supposed to operate at all. But Tal lobs him into the sun, and then we get like the dope ass supercharge. And the supercharge scene for me, at least in this, borrowed heavily from Christopher Reeve's Superman, but then also borrowed heavily from Zack Snyder's Justice League's Flash, because he just goes balling around the world at, like, well, both the worlds technically, because you have like the cube and then you have the earth, and they're just kind of like sitting on top of each other. And then in order to separate them, he just like decks the planet, which splits the dimensions and sends everybody back. Beautiful, fantastic scene, absolutely love it. While on the ground, watching the chaos of like buildings disappear and pop back in, and monuments disappear and pop back in, people being like sent over to one universe and pulled back to another universe and sent over another universe and pulled back to another universe, all of that's great. But then he defeats Ali, and I would say that Ali's defeat was a little bit anticlimactic, because I feel as though it's now cliche to defeat something that feeds on energy by giving it a shit ton of energy. Like, I was really hoping that we wouldn't go down that cliche route. We went down that cliche route, which it kind of felt like the Incredible Hulk, where Absorbing Man's taking Hulk's power and he's just like, take it all. Like, I really feel like we need to move away from that and make it a little bit more compelling and a little bit more difficult for the hero, instead of them just going, oh, I've been supercharged, baby, go ahead and take all this energy. The discussion between Lois and Ali is also great. A lot of the times the villain gets beat and they just die, but it's great to see that when they were merging, at least you see them in the containment unit together, because when they touch hands, they don't have powers. When they were merging, our Ali says that for a brief moment she felt joy, and then once they merged, she was like, after we merged, I felt despair, because it wasn't the completion that I was looking for. And then you start to get into like the meat of it all, and you discover that she's just alone. Like, she's always been alone on our world, and then also alone on her world. Her looking for her other half was her also trying to essentially heal her own scars and her own issues that Lana was essentially dealing with. Well, not Lana, Lucy was essentially dealing with as well. And it was great having that small discussion, because you get a little bit of a deeper look at the villain, and then the villain kind of becomes sympathetic, because it's like, I was trying to heal the world the way in which I thought it should be healed, but once I became what I always wanted to become, I realized that none of this meant anything, that it didn't heal me the way in which I wanted, and that there was still a level of despair. And then when Lois was leaving, she says, well, at least you're not alone anymore. And then both of them hold hands, and I was like, oh, that's actually dope. Like, I feel bad. I feel bad for Ali. I wasn't expecting them to make me feel bad for Ali in like the last 5 minutes of the show, but they made me feel bad for Ali. And of course, Diggle shows up and has a conversation with John Henry about Intergang, and then we end with Clark creating a new Fortress of Solitude that's just not for him, but for the entire family. And it looks as though Jonathan's going to be moving towards what is his name? It's like two different Kryptonians, but they don't really have any powers. Instead, they use tech. I don't know if you remember, it was like back in the early 2000s, Superman got split in half. There was like a red Superman and a blue Superman, and like a lot of their stuff was like really tech based. Where it looks as though Jonathan's moving towards that. he's going to be the tech-focused Kryptonian, whereas Jordan's going to be the power-focused Kryptonian. But at the exact same time, I'm still sitting around hoping that eventually Jonathan will get powers. I'm hoping that that's something that happens in season 3, because I'm really annoyed at the fact that only Jordan still has powers and Jonathan's still basically normal. But you know, hey, that's just me. I thought the season finale was fantastic. I would probably say that I enjoyed this season finale more than season 1, more or less because there was like more spectacle and it seemed as though the stakes were a whole lot higher. Also, I'm gonna save this for like a completely other video. They do confirm, at least in this show, that this show does not take place in the Arrowverse, or at least it does not take place on Earth Prime of the Arrowverse that has Barry, Kara, Oliver, and all the other heroes. It takes place on its own universe, separate from the Arrowverse, which means that the Arrowverse does still have their version of Superman, but he's not the version of Superman that's basically been going on all these adventures with us for the last 2 seasons of Superman and Lois, and I am 100% okay with that. But yeah, excellent season 2 finale. I fucking loved it, and I cannot wait until season 3. I hope it gets greenlit for season 3. If I hear that the show's been canceled, I'm gonna fucking riot. But yeah, comment below, let me know what your favorite scene was in the season finale, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.